Hello, you guys. You know what time it is. Welcome back to another live. How are you? Happy Sunday. I hope you are all doing well. This live, I might go off. I might go off on this live. I'm just letting you know that. So get ready. But we're going to go and do a deep dive into the post that I made earlier in the week where I was talking about all the things that I stopped doing after my spiritual awakening. Hi, Learning Through Life. How are you? If you have any questions, it doesn't have to do about what I talked about in the post, but if you have any questions about spirituality, manifestation, energy work, anything like that, feel free to ask it in the comment box below. If you're watching the replay, drop a comment and I will be happy to answer it. We're going to get into it, okay? I want to share with you some of the top things that I stopped doing after my spiritual awakening. And of course, there are a lot of things, right? There's more than what I have included in this list, but these are the main ones that came to my mind that I wanted to share with you that I think that some of you can definitely relate to. So if you can relate to it, also let me know in the chat. If you want further insight into any of them, also let me know in the chat, okay? So, number one. Hi to everybody that's joined. How are you? I hope you guys are all well. The first thing I stopped doing after my spiritual awakening is I released attachments to stories so that the mind could calm and the urgency of reaction dissipates. I allowed more space to This allows more space to allow life to unfold. So, releasing attachments to stories, what does that mean? There were many stories that you guys grow up with, be that comes from your family, that comes from society, that comes from the media, that comes from your teachers, that comes from your friends. So, I had to really examine some of those stories, right? A lot of my stories came from my family that were not conducive to my well-being or not conducive to where I wanted to go in life. And I had to work to release those attachments to those stories. A lot of you have attachments to stories that has to do with the mother wound, that has to do with the father wound, that has to do with money, that has to do with love, that has to do with what your life should look like. And a lot of you are stuck on those stories. I see so many women, especially, who are stuck in stories of how they need to be in a family and how they need to present themselves and the image that they need to present to the world and how they need to cater to everybody and their grandparents and their mothers and their aunties and their uncles. And it's just a lot. So again, I released myself from those stories where I was conditioned to believe this is how I had to show up or this is what was supposed to happen in my life. And once you release those stories, the mind calms down. The urgency of reaction dissipates because when you're attached to stories, there's also a reaction that's going to happen in you, right? There's also going to be a triggering that happens in you. So you really need to do the deeper inner work and try to figure out how are the stories playing out in your life? How are they triggering you? If you're triggered, look at the story behind it and see why is this triggering me? It's usually attached to a story. And once you notice that, you'll see that you always have a reaction. Is this making sense? Let me know. So then you have to allows more space to allow life unfolding naturally for you, right? Once you release the attachments to the stories, life can unfold naturally for you. It can unfold the way it's supposed to. It unfolds in a way that is more refreshing, that's not more urgent or more reactive. It allows life to just unfold beautifully for you instead of you always catering to these stories and molding yourself to fit different stories in your life. So again, this is what I stopped doing after my spiritual awakening. I disassociated, I released, I stepped away from any attachments to stories that were put on me by family members, by friends, by society, by the media, by teachers, whoever it may be. You need to release those stories. If you don't release those stories, then somebody else always has a grasp and a stronghold over your mind and who you are and how you're supposed to show up in the world. So again, the number one thing you have to do is release your attachments to stories, or else they will become your identity. Hello, B2B freelance writer 22. How are you? I'm talking about everything that I stopped doing after my spiritual awakening. Let me know if you have any comments or questions. So yeah, this will become your identity, and you will live a life of somebody else and their stories that they have projected onto you if you cannot get this into check. And it's not as easy and simple as you think it is. Oh, I'm going to identify the story. Okay, here it is. And that's the end of it. There's a lot of work behind it. There's a lot of back end behind it that you need to do and that you need to work through, essentially. Let me know if that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense to you guys, okay? If you have any questions behind that. Okay. It's a lot of work releasing attachments to stories, because not only do you have to identify the story, you have to figure out, why is a story appearing in your life? Why has a story attached to you? Why is it in your lineage if it's coming from your family? Why are you adopting the story? Why is it attaching to you in the way that it's affecting your life negatively? So again, it's not just merely identifying the story. There's a lot behind it. Okay, the second thing I did after my spiritual awakening was I stopped caring who stayed in my life. I remember in my 20s, I had so many friends. I had so many, acquaintances. And I wouldn't say that they were all the best people for me at all. I'm just going to add another light. Hold on. I had a lot of acquaintances. I had a lot of friends, and a lot of these people, actually the majority of them, were opportunists. They added nothing to my life. I can say that now looking back. I did not learn anything from them. A lot of these people that were benefiting from me and being in their life, I was the better person. I was showing up for them. I had almost nobody who showed up for me. So I stopped caring who showed up in my life. And once you stop caring who shows up into your life, it will reveal itself to you. They will reveal themselves to you. They will show you whether or not they truly care. Some of these friendships or relationships just dissipated on their own. They just stopped communicating. It was as simple as that. And I remember one of my mentors gave this to me. She gave me this advice. She said, if you don't know what to do, don't do anything at all. And that's exactly what I did. I did nothing at all when it came to these people in my life. And I learned the truth about who was really there for me, who was really centered on, being a true friend and being a true, sorry, I'm just trying to fix the light, guys, trying to be there, and who was really trying to be there for me as a person. And as it turned out, I was correct all along. My intuition and my guidance had told me that these were not the people for me, and I was correct, right? So again, you will start to realize who's actually for you, who's an opportunist, who's looking to benefit from you, who actually cares about you, and who is willing to stay in your life for the right reasons. And I guarantee you that some of you will realize, oh my goodness, it's a lot less people than you think it is. So again, I stopped caring. I don't care. Even to this day, I don't care. There's a lot of people who, even if there's people in my audience, and if you stake around, I don't care if you unfollow, right? It's the same thing. The right people will stay. The right people will come for the right reasons. And there is a sense of freedom in that. There is the sense of peace in that, because you're no longer binded to these people or attached to these peoples in a way that is harming your sense of peace and your sense of vitality. They're no longer draining you. They're no longer taking from you. So you essentially are benefiting from this. I know it looks like a big L, like a big loss, but trust me, it is not. There is not one person, and I can say this with a 100% confidence, there is not one person that I lost that I wish I had backed. Period. Nobody. Bye. Okay, stay where you are. Please don't try to come back. And trust me, here's another thing I noticed too. Once you get rid of these people and you stop caring who stays in your life, they always try to come back. They always try to come back because they always want something from you. Whether that is, for my case, a lot of it was knowledge, right? They wanted the benefit of being around me in my auric field, my insight, my ideas, my guidance, my advice. A lot of them were there for that. So again, a lot of them will come back, and then that's where you have the benefit to say bye, right? So again, something you need to do after your spiritual awakening is stop caring who stays in your life. You need to understand that people are no longer serving you in a way that is fulfilling for your greater purpose. And that's something I took a really long time to understand. And I can remember certain examples where I had just finished law school and I came back to Toronto, and I was hanging out with my old friends again. And I was just like, they haven't changed. A lot of them were still doing the same things they had been doing before I had even went away or moved for like 7 years. A lot of them were now a liability to me and my career. A lot of them were still doing criminal activities. A lot of them were still taking risks that I could not take. So again, was this fulfilling to me? Was this beneficial for my higher purpose and my calling? No, right? Absolutely not. So that's why I say, like, I had no problem getting rid of these people, because I was aligned with a higher vision and a higher purpose that only I could see, and that this is creating a shadow. I just realized it, but that's okay. Let me put it this way. Yeah, these people had no idea of what my vision was or what I was trying to create in my life, right? So obviously their actions were detrimental or harmful to what I was trying to create in my life. And that's just unacceptable when you're on this journey. You cannot have people who are going to risk your alignment. You cannot have people in your life who are going to sabotage your purpose. You cannot have people in your life who are going to create risk and challenges and obstacles for you because they themselves are not healed or aligned or whole or complete. You need to identify who these people are. Because if you don't, even though they're sabotaging you, you're self-sabotaging yourself by keeping them in your life. So you need to have that level of awareness of what exactly is going on and how this is playing out in a larger field and how this is affecting every area of your life. You may think you don't have anything to lose. Like, I had a legal career, but you may think, okay, well, I don't have something like that where it's so risky, but you never know. You never know. Some of these people can affect your home situations, your marriages, your life, your children's lives. So again, you need to understand when people no longer serve you, when they no longer fulfill a purpose in your life, when they no longer enhance your life, where they no longer add value to your life. And I know a lot of you are thinking, okay, I've heard this before, but you don't understand the detriment that it has to keeping these people in your life. And you don't understand that the way it works spiritually of having people in your life like this. So again, you really need to stop caring, and you need to let the universe show you and reveal itself to you, and let these people reveal themselves to you so that you can make an informed decision of whether you not want to keep them in your life or not. Let me know if you guys have any questions about that. And I know it's challenging and I know it's hard, because essentially you're going to be like, I got rid of all my friends. I got rid of all my friends and some family. Literally. Does it suck? Maybe. I mean, some people would say, okay, well, that's a lot. Like, that kind of, sucks or whatever. But I don't know. I'm on the other end of it, and I don't think it's that shitty. Like, I think the peace is well worth it. I think having the no drama is well worth it. Some of you are like 50 years old, 40 years old, 35 years old, 32 years old, and you have so much drama in your life. You have so much drama in your life. How do you live like that in a constant state of fight or flight, in a constant state of chaos, in a constant state of conflict, in a constant state of arguments, in a constant state of unsatisfaction, in a constant state of dis-ease. That causes disease in your body because you have an unregulated nervous system. So why would you want these people in your life? Think about it. Okay, let's move to number 3. The next thing I stopped doing was I stopped framing. I'm just looking at my notes, you guys, if you see me looking down. I stopped framing my personal construct of life by what I did. There was no need to tell the world. I simply experienced the solid reality of my consciousness. So this is like, all of these kind of play into each other, and you'll see how the attachments to stories plays into this. And I'll give you the example from my own life where I'm saying I stopped framing my personal construct for life by what I did. So a lot of my life was shaped by, like, you know, it wasn't a story that I had put onto myself. It was a story that a lot of family had put onto me with, like, she's a lawyer. She's a 3rd generation lawyer in her direct family lineage. She's the first female lawyer in her family. And this was a narrative that I lived by for so long, where I was just attached to that story of, like, I'm a lawyer, I'm the first one in my family, I'm the 3rd generation. And again, this wasn't the narrative that I wanted to live by. This wasn't a narrative that, I mean, sure, it's great, right? And it sounds great and it feels great and whatever, but there was more to my life than that. There was more to my identity than that. That was just a job, right? That is just a job. I don't identify with myself as a job. And I see a lot of people in their bio, they put that as their job, right? They put, like, nurse, social worker, doctor, optometrist, naturopathic doctor. That's your job, right? Like, my job isn't my identity. It is not my purpose. It is not who I present to the world to be. I am a person with talents and gifts and hopes and dreams and desires. That's what I put forth in the world, right? So I stopped essentially framing my personal construct by what I did, right? By what I did for a living. I stopped doing that. And as soon as you stop doing that, watch how it's going to trigger people, because that's how people present themselves to the world. Think about it. When you meet someone for the first time, hi, my name is Michelle. Okay, what do you do for a living? That's generally the second comment people ask you, or the second question people ask you after what is your name. They ask you, what do you do for a living? Why is it that we identify or, categorize people by what they do in order to give them which level of respect, right? So you really need to think about it. How are you presenting yourself to the world? How are you going to introduce yourself? And are you living by an attachment to a story that is essentially one you don't even identify with? Right? Like, how crazy is that? So I no longer did that. I stopped framing myself, or you'll see, I hardly talk about law in this business account, right? I don't share a lot about that. You guys don't know a lot about that. But again, because that's not who I am as a person. That's just what I do for a living. That is means for a way for money to flow into my life, right? It is a job. It is a career. It is a profession. It's not an identity. So a lot of people, you need to separate yourself from these stories of how you appear in the world and how your personal construct is created by what you do. Because that's essentially saying that there's nothing else to you, right? And you see this too with women who say, or they put in their bios, men too, like husband, wife, mother. Like, yes, you are those things, but who were you before those things? Who were you before you became or had these titles put onto you, or that you've wanted for yourself? Hi, Spiritual Thoughts, how are you? So again, you need to think about this carefully. You need to see how your personal construct for life is being framed by what you do in life, and how you are using that to identify and self-identify in the world, because a lot of you are not those things. And you're just sticking to the story that was put onto you, or that you've known all your life, and you have nothing else to identify with. So again, that's something that I did. And my other part of that little part was there was no need to tell the world, right? As soon as you stop telling the world who you are and what you do, you start showing up as who you are and what you do. And people can start creating that narrative in their mind for themselves. They can get the picture by your essence, by the way you show up, by how you carry yourself, by what you speak of. Think about it, right? Okay, so I also simply experienced the solid reality of my consciousness. So by removing the narrative and framing yourself by what you do, you start experiencing the solid reality of your consciousness. You start showing up as who you are, as your level of awareness, as your level of consciousness. I started showing up as a spiritual person, as an entrepreneur with a business. Like, it's insane the shift that will happen once you remove that personal construct that you've put on yourself. And you just show up at your level of reality and your level of consciousness, and people will see it. And I remember when I started my business, a lot of people were shocked. They were just like, because that they had no idea, right? They had no idea of the level of my awareness. They were stuck on the personal construct that I created by just saying that I was a lawyer, or people saying in my family, you know, she's a lawyer. People, when I started my business, were so triggered by the fact that I had a business. You don't think I know? I knew, right? I would make posts. Nobody would like them. They would stalk my stories. They would copy my ideas. People get so triggered when they realize that you have more to offer in life than what they thought you had to offer. When you start showing up bigger, when you play a bigger game, when you show that you are more. Do you know how many people are triggered by the fact that, yes, I have a law degree, but yes, I also have a business, that I could create money for myself out of thin air, that I have a higher level of consciousness than you? That triggers people. So again, you have to be really careful of, you know, how you're showing up and what your personal construct is created from. Because people are going to hold you to it. People don't want to see you elevate out of that. People don't want to see you move higher than the construct that they've given you, that society has given you, or your family has given you. People don't want to see you break the barriers. People don't want to see you move past the ceiling that they've capped you at. You know why? Because they can't do it themselves. So again, this is what I stopped doing after my spiritual awakening. The next thing I stopped doing was, let me just move this up. I stopped planning every area of my life. Certain life plans can collapse and change. I now consciously co-create every second of my life. So this was true. So a lot of my life, I had planned out every area of my life, which I know a lot of you have planned out. And then what you don't realize is that once you start making these plans and you rigidly feel like this is what you should be doing. For example, I had a friend who was like, I need to be married in 5 years. I need to have kids in the next 5 years. She would forcefully make these plans happen for herself, right? She would find a man to get married with. She would force him to have the kids, and they ended up in divorce. And it's the same thing, right? When you start making these plans for your life and giving yourself these guidelines and these numbers and these dates and these things that you have to stick by, that leaves no room for the universe to show up, and that leaves no things for change. That leaves no opportunity for growth. That leaves no opportunity for you to co-create with the universe, because you were so stuck on the plan that you created. You were not able to pivot. A lot of you are not able to pivot when the plan doesn't work out for you. You're stuck with the plan that your parents have put through to you through their lineage. You're stuck through what has happened in the generations in your lifetime, that you need to get married and have a kid by this and buy a house. You can't see past that. And when life plans collapse, you don't know how to pivot. You don't know what to do. right? So I stopped doing that. I understood that life plans can change and they can collapse, and I knew how to pivot. And instead, what I did was I would take those opportunities to co-create with the universe, to consciously co-create. I would sit in those opportunities and I would think, okay, what do I need to do here? What is it I want to create here? What is it that I'm trying to gain out of this? Where do I want to go next? You can't even do that. Some of you can't even do that. You don't even co-create every second of your life. Do you co-create every second of your life? Answer this question right now. Or are you just living life going by what happens to you? A lot of you just live life going through the daily motions of like what happens to you and whatever happened in that day and what you planned for. But do you consciously co-create it? There's a very, very important difference in that, in just living life as it happens and consciously co-creating every second of your life. There's a very drastic difference that I guarantee you a lot of you do not know how to do. You do not know how to create every second of your life. You do not know how to consciously co-create. I know you don't know that. So again, you need to stop planning for your life because things can change. In any second, all it takes for the universe or God to go, a snap of the fingers, and things can change. That's all it takes for the universe or for God or whoever you want to call it for things to change for you. So again, are you ready? Can you handle that? You need to ask yourself these questions. Stop planning. Start living. The next thing I stopped doing after my spiritual awakening was I stopped caring for the outside world and started caring for the inside one. So what does that mean? I stopped caring about, I hardly watch the news, okay? Like the only time I watch the news is to see if my predictions came true, which they always do. But other than that, I don't care. I don't care about religion. I don't care about the news. And I'm not talking about like, okay, you don't care if there's like killings or whatever. Of course I care, but I'm not actively engaged in that. I'm not actively engaged in like politics and world affairs and what's going on in religion and the snowstorm and oh my God, like I don't care. Why would I give my energy to external 3D situations or circumstances that don't directly affect my life? And a lot of people say, well, how are you saying they don't directly affect your life? Of course they do. No, they don't affect your life if you raise above the vibration of that. Right? You need to rise above the vibration of the situation. A lot of people say, well, why would you move back to the US? Don't you know it's going to be a political, shit show? And it's like, you rise above that. You rise your vibration above that so it doesn't affect you. That's how you live there. Or people say, well, how do people live in California? How can they afford it? The taxes are insane. It's so expensive. You get taxed crazy. You rise above that. You rise your vibration above that so it doesn't affect you. It's the same thing. So again, I don't care for the outside world in the sense that I did before about like what's going on and what's the hype and, all this chaos and this unease and this turmoil and there's inflation and the economy and the housing crisis and oh my God, shut up. That's just a mindless chatter. Rise above it. Rise your vibration above it so it doesn't affect you. During the pandemic, when everything was locked down, I was making more money I ever made in my life. I was making more money I ever made in my life. Working my own hours, working whenever I wanted to, waking up whenever I wanted to, go back in the post, look what I was doing. I was having a time was had during those times. I was out and about. I was making money. Okay, so again, after spiritual awakening, stop caring for the external world. Care about your internal world. Care about how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're creating, what you're doing. And what essentially is, what essentially do you want for your life? That's what I started taking action for and what I started caring about instead of the external world. Okay, the next thing I stopped doing was doing things because I should. There was a lot of times in my life, and I can remember like earlier in my childhood where, you know, a lot of times my family or my parents would be like, you need to do this because, or you should do this because, you know, it's a family gathering, or you should do this because it looks bad if you don't show up. I don't give a shit. Now I don't do anything that doesn't make me feel good about myself, that I don't want to do, that I feel I shouldn't do, that I don't care about, that I don't resonate with. I feel into almost everything that shows up. Meaning, if someone asks me to do something, I don't automatically say yes or no. I sit with it for a bit. I feel how it feels in my body, because we've had this conversation before, you guys. And if you haven't watched any of the lives before, I suggest you go back and watch every single live I've ever done. Go back and watch every single live that I've done, because it will show up in your body first. The feeling and the answers will show up in your body first, and it will tell you if you should do something. And half the times I did shit when I was younger I did not want to do, but I was told I should do it. Be a good daughter. You're part of the family. It's going to look so bad. I didn't want to do it. You think I want to do it? I don't care about you. Why would I want to do it? So again, now I feel guys, I'm going off. I'm laughing at this live. Now I feel into almost everything that shows up. And half the time, let me tell you, I don't do it. I don't do it. If you ask me to do something and I've told you no, this is why. Because I felt into it and something told me, don't do it. This shit is off and I won't do it. Okay? So that's something I stopped doing. I stopped doing things because I should and because I felt into it and the energy told me, bitch, don't do it. So I never did it. And that's literally how I live my life. Okay. The next thing I stopped doing was fighting resistance. I met it and I moved through it. So a lot of the time what would happen before my spiritual awakening was there was a lot of resistance to things, right? Whether this was in school or like exams or tests or family or anything. If there was any sort of resistance, I would try to fight the resistance. Oh my God, no, this isn't happening to me. I can't believe this is happening to me. Oh my God, we're breaking up. How can we stay together? Oh my gosh, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is in your own life. I stopped fighting the resistance. It's the same thing with like letting the people go. I just let it happen. Okay, I met it. I met the resistance. Okay, this is happening. What's the next step? What else can you do? What else could I do to pivot through it or to move through it instead of sitting there and fighting it? Because the more you fight it, the more energy you're expending and giving it and fueling it, right? So instead, I met it and I moved through it. And that doesn't mean that the resistance, I wouldn't say the resistance went away. Actually, the resistance most of the time went away, but most of the time something better came in the end, or most of the time the resistance would shift and reveal something else. But the more you fight it is the more detriment that it causes you. So I stopped fighting it. There was none of that. I just met the resistance face on and saying, okay, this is obviously happening. So let's give an example. The example is like, let's say a breakup. Let's say somebody wants to break up and you don't want to break up. And then you're begging the person to stay. This happens all the time, right? Please don't leave me. Oh, stay, blah, blah, blah. Just let it go. Just let it happen and meet it and say, okay, this is no longer working for this person. They're no longer happy. You have to honor that and move through that. It's as simple as that. Whereas there was so much resistance before. Think about it in your own lives. That's just an example I'm thinking of, but think about it in your own lives of how it's showing up and how you keep, or people who want a divorce, think about it like that. And a lot of men and women who fight the divorce or fight the affair or anything like that, meet it and move through it. That's just so much simpler, right? And a lot of people say, well, okay, isn't that just accepting your fate and accepting, what's happening to you? And yeah, but what's the other option? The resistance is there because it's trying to tell you something. The resistance is telling you that it's not for you. So why do you keep fighting for something that's not for you? That means you don't have the level of awareness yet of what is for you and what's not for you. You can't differentiate between them. So again, stop fighting the resistance. I don't care. I just acknowledge it, meet it, and then move through it. That's it. End of story. Life goes on. Okay, the next thing is I stopped giving advice and here I am on a live with you. I stopped giving advice and let people learn from their own lessons through their own mistakes and their poor life choices. This is huge. So this goes back to what I was talking about before, where a lot of people were just friends with me because they wanted the advice. A lot of people, wanted to, and a lot of people still do this, right? Even with my spiritual business, a lot of you are coming to the lives and you don't even like the lives, or you don't follow me, or you don't even engage, or you're just taking the information and running with it. I've had people who booked readings. I tell them how to improve their lives and then they unfollow and they're gone. Ungrateful, first of all. But again, obviously I'm giving advice on this live because this is my business and this is what I do and this is what I teach. But in general, in life, I stopped giving advice. A lot of people would contact me for free legal advice. They still do. In fact, I had someone do it just the other day. Pay somebody. People need to learn from their own lessons and their own mistakes. You need to learn through your actions what you have done. Stop going to people for advice and then not taking it. Right? That's the thing I started learning. I was giving advice and these people weren't even taking it. A lot of you guys listen to my lives and you don't even take the advice. You just listen to it. Oh, she knows so much. Oh, she's right. Oh, that's a good idea. But then you do nothing. So that's why I just stopped talking and I stopped giving the advice. A lot of the people in my audience would message me and want free advice in the DMs. What should I do now? What's happened? What do you see? I'm sorry. I'm no longer available. No longer available to have chit chats with you in the DMs. It doesn't work like that. Okay? I stopped giving advice and I let people figure it out for themselves. And the funny thing is, when you let people figure things out for themselves through their own mistakes and lessons, they keep repeating them because they have absolutely no awareness and they have absolutely no level of consciousness to understand how they are repeating patterns or how they are continuing to repeat cycles or to continue repeat generational curses or anything like that. And again, that's giving myself away externally, the outside world, when I should be caring about what's happening internally. So again, I stopped giving advice. And a lot of things too I noticed about was a lot of people get triggered when your advice is good. A lot of people were triggered when my advice was good. How does she know this? Where is she learning this? What is her source? They were thinking that I was getting the information from external sources. Hi, Kathy. How are you? The sources are not external. Everything that you need to know is internal. It's inside of you. All the answers you're seeking is inside of you. You just need to find the way to have the answers come out and how the answers can reveal itself to you. Instead of asking people for advice, instead of going to 5 different people, what should I do? Oh my gosh, what do you think? go inside and get the answer. It won't lead you astray. Okay, the next thing I did was I changed my diet to only consume high vibrational foods and practice intuitive eatings. And this is huge. And I know a lot of people think about this and they say, okay, well, we know this. We know that we should eat high vibrational foods, but it is more than this. It is not just identifying the fact that you need to eat high vibrational foods and what those foods are and where you can get them and how they're going to make you feel. It's a lot more than that. You have to understand how the food plays into your energetic system, into your auric field. You need to understand how, hi Debbie Dan Brooke, how are you? You need to understand how the foods play into your body, how the foods are affecting you spiritually. You need to understand how the trauma of the animal, when consumed by you, is going to alter certain codes in your body. You need to understand how certain foods are going to trigger your nervous system. You need to understand how, what diet that you're focusing on is going to affect your auric field. There's more to it than just thinking I need to eat high vibrational foods. There's a lot more at play. You and everybody's different, right? You need to understand. Thank you for the heart. You need to understand it's really hard to explain. You need to understand the frequency of the food that you're consuming. I know a lot of people who just go to the grocery stores and they see stuff on sale, especially when it comes to like meat and fish. And I always tell people it's so funny. Like I'm able to look at food and I'm just like, oh, I shouldn't eat that. Or that's not fresh. And then people are like, yeah, it is. Don't worry. It has a shelf life of a week. And I'm like, I wouldn't eat that if I were you. Next thing you know, they open it up and it's already gone bad. So again, you have to understand the frequency of the food and how the frequency of certain foods is going to affect you, because it affects everybody differently. And it affects you in not only your body, but like your energetic system. So again, you need to really practice intuitive eating and see what your body is being called to and what these foods are, and identify a diet and a lifestyle that is going to be conducive to your well-being and your health. Because, before my spiritual awakening, I remember I ate a lot of junk food. I drank a lot. I ate a lot of sugar. Now I don't hardly consume alcohol. I barely eat junk food. If I eat chocolate, it's like dark chocolate. But again, your diet will drastically change. I hardly eat meat. I'm semi-vegetarian, almost past, I don't even know, okay? It's crazy. You become the pickiest eater. And things really shift, and it does get complicated, and it does take time to really figure it out and try to really it takes time to figure it out. I'm just going to leave it at that, because the body, not only do you go through the spiritual awakening in your mind, right? Your body's going through it too. So I'm not trying to say that they're separate, but they are separate systems that work together cohesively to form one ecosystem. So it's and you'll know, right? You know where you're at in this journey. So you'll know what I'm talking about and how this is going to play into each other. But it's you've got to figure out how essentially they're playing into each other, and how you can support your body through this, and what foods you're going to be called to that's going to help support you while you're going through your spiritual awakening, and what's going to support you in your spiritual lifestyle and your practice. Because what you ate before and what you eat after is going to look very, very different. And I'm not going to lie, it's a lot of work. And it's going to trigger a lot of people, because a lot of people don't like to see, okay, wow. Even when I go to the grocery store and I buy groceries, there's one cashier who always cashes me out, and she's like, holy, you eat really clean. And I'm just and I don't think of it, because it's natural to me, right? But And I thought about it when she pointed it out, and I was like, yeah, you're right. I do. So again, you need to figure this out. If you need any helpful insights, you can leave a comment. I'll be happy to answer. So again, that's one thing that changed after my spiritual awakening. We're on the last point. Okay. The last one is important. The last one is I stopped having casual relationships with men who are not ready for the activation of divine union. Yes. Okay, huge. Follow me. A lot of you are dating men and women, whatever your gender is, who are not ready, or you're even not even dating, you're married to men, your spouse, to men or women who were never ready for the activation of divine union. I said it first. A lot of you were so desperate to be married or in a relationship that you settled and you never married a person who was ready for divine union. And if you know anything about divine union, you will know that that is the end game. You want to be in a relationship and a marriage with someone who is ready for divine union. And I can tell you I've seen some of your profiles, a lot of you are with the wrong people. And I will tell you right now that a lot of men and women in society are not ready for the activation of divine union. Almost nobody is, right? Unless they've done that level of work. So why are you putting yourself in that position? I was putting myself in that position, and we talked about this in the last couple of lives, right? Like why men siphon women's energy and why women siphon men's energy. If you haven't seen those posts or those lives, go back and watch that because it is super important. And essentially that's what was happening. I was in these casual relationships or these relationships where men, and they were siphoning my energy. Was I aware of this to some level because of my consciousness? Yeah, right? So again, just because you think that they seem like a good fit or they say all the right things or they check all the right boxes does not mean that they are ready for divine union. And this is a whole other topic in itself because it's a whole other topic. It's a whole loaded topic. And I don't want to get into it in this live because this live is already going really long. But to essentially be in divine union, you need to be like, I'm a divine feminine. You need to be in divine feminine energy, and you need to marry a divine masculine who's in that energy. Or you need to be with a man who's ready for that activation. And a lot of men are just not, they're not the container for that. And I've seen, I don't know anybody who's in actually divine union. I don't know anyone who's actually married a man or a woman who's ready for the activation of divine union. It's something that's very, very sacred. And I don't know anybody who's actually really done it. Maybe, I think like one couple on YouTube. Nobody really that I've seen in my personal life. None of you in watching this are, I can tell you that for sure. And I know some of you are going to be like, well, how do you know my spouse or my man isn't in divine union? Girl, look at your man. If your man is sitting there watching football all day, eating tea, like junk food on the couch, getting fat, and then you're fat, and does that look like a divine union to you? Does that look like a divine union to you? If you've been married to your man for 10 years and he doesn't want to have a kid with you, does that sound like divine union to you? If you've been dating a man for like 8 years, he doesn't want to get engaged, does that sound like a divine union to you? And these are just like, basic examples, right? This is just outward physical examples, generalizations that I'm giving you, but obviously it goes deeper into this. It goes into the essence of a man and the character of a man and how he's being called to show up in the world. And I can guarantee you some of the people you're married to are not it. You weren't even it. So you just have two regular ass people in these relationships. And this is what I had to stop doing. I was like, am I going to marry a mere mortal, a mere human being who isn't ready for my magic and gifts? Hell no. Because if I were to do something like that, it is self-sabotage. Why would I sabotage myself like that? When you're in a relationship like that, like I said in the last live, look at how your physical appearance will change. It will drain your life force energy. You will age faster. I'm not trying to do all that. So again, you need to really stop having these relationships with people who aren't ready for the activation of divine union. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then do some research about that and you will learn about divine union and what that is. And I can tell you from personal experience, like I wasted so much time, with some of these men who weren't ready to be called to that. And even though that they showed that they had the potential to be that or to be called into divine union, they can never show up as that in the 3D reality, in the 3D world. And that would cause me to reflect and be like, I need to step away from this, because the person who's going to lose in this relationship is going to be me. They would be the one gaining from this all the time. And you don't want to put yourself in that kind of situation. So again, I have to stop doing this, right? You just can't be with everybody who is, seems like a really great match or who fits all the boxes or everything that you had on your list. It just doesn't work like that. There's a special activation that happens, and it has to be with the right person, the right partner. So again, a lot of people are not ready for this. A lot of men out there are not ready for the activation of divine union. It is a whole different ball game. And it is very sacred, like I said, because that is where the magic happens. So be mindful of that when you are out in the dating world. Okay, I'm going to end this live here. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment box. You can watch the live replay on here on Instagram, or you can watch it on our YouTube channel. You can just run in the background. You don't have to sit here and look at me, but I don't mind if you do. We are on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Just follow us there. We are on live every Sunday at 2 p.m. You can book your high vibrational energy readings. I would not wait. Spring is going to be insane. Same with summer. Lots of changes coming up. DM me or email alignedtocreate@gmail.com to book your energy reading. If you are interested in private mentoring to elevate your level of consciousness, then click the link in bio. If you want to join our free broadcast channel, click the link in bio. If you want to join our email list, also click the link in bio, and I will see you next week live. Bye.